Hey, Bleeding Fool. I was going to originally make this a video for Nerdrotic Daily, and I still might, and it was really fucking long. So I'm just going to give you a response to the article. I've read the whole thing twice. So Brian essentially said he's closing down my old shop because he's losing 2 employees, and he doesn't want to put the work in to basically train new employees, and it would take a lot of time and energy, and the shop just wasn't that profitable. So let me preface some stuff that when I sold the shop to him, it was in a rush, and it was I don't know if you guys heard the story or not, but I had relapsed. So the store was doing good, but I wasn't. There's a lot of reasons for that, and my habit was getting bad. So whatever money was coming in, I was like, it was all going up my nose and shit, but that's neither here nor there. So that led to like, I got to sell this quick because I have to go to rehab and get my life together. Turned out to be a great decision. The most well-timed fucking relapse ever. Now, you know, it wasn't fun, and in the long run, things worked out, but like, it sucked. And Brian took full advantage of the situation, right? He knew I was fucking drugged out and lowballed me, and I just fucking took it at the time because I didn't even have time to move everything out of the store. Sure, there's some stuff I left behind that kind of breaks my heart, but, you know, I had a bunch of stuff at home anyway, so I was like, I'll start another store again someday, but right now, I just need to get out of this. And I didn't like what I saw in the industry. I started seeing like little things, but I never thought it would get this bad. So when Brian took over, he never worked there. So he hired one of my old employees who I had let go. I didn't like the guy at all. So he brought Cameron back, and he brought some other manager in, and they took over. And I remember when I was at the sober living environment, I had people emailing me, and I mean, half my clientele was begging for me to come back. They didn't like the new employees. I had set up an atmosphere of, I made it a hangout. I had couches everywhere, and, you know, I didn't care if you bought something or not. Just come in and hang out all fucking day, and we'll bullshit. He automatically moved the counter and made it a place to where just give me your money and leave. Just give me your money and leave. He didn't do anything with the kids section, and he didn't do anything with the store after I left. If you walk in that store right now, it looks like it did when I left. The picture that they use in the article in the Beat, that's a picture I took of my store. That's when it was at its peak. Now, overall, the store has had 4 owners. It had a guy named Mike who owned it up until, and this is a funny story in itself, until 1997 when Hale-Bopp came along and he thought the world was going to end. So he sold the store. He was a nutter. And then Russ took over. And that's the guy I bought it from. He was more into politics than comics. He wasn't a big comic book reader, so he always had NPR, and he'd always talk to the customers about freaking politics. And when I interviewed the customers when I bought the store, that's what inspired me to never talk about, I never did anyway, but to never bring up politics because that was the biggest complaint. So I bought it from him. The store was shit when I bought it. I overpaid for it, and I put a bunch of money and time into making it a destination store. My philosophy always was making the store worth your trip. Like, I don't care if you buy anything or not. I want you to feel like you had a satisfying experience. And when people walked in my store, they went, oh, because I had comics and shit everywhere. And that was my goal. I wanted to make it a fun place to be. Brian's a very clinical guy. He's very much into the numbers. Plus, our 2 different philosophies are he has a bookstore, basically. It's a graphic novel, trade paperback store. He sells what he calls periodicals. I call them floppies. And he doesn't really sell back issues. And what he does works. It's very, again, boring and clinical, but he's been around for 2 decades. And this is why he is considered a prominent comic shop owner. But if you walked into his store, you wouldn't think he was a prominent comic shop owner. So he's managed to play it safe. And again, that works. My philosophy was, have fun. I was more of a comic book store. And I don't know if my philosophy would work right now because it did rely on, the weekly funny books. But I also relied on back issues of vintage toys, blah, blah, blah. So he doesn't want to put the time into hiring 2 new employees and retraining them. Because the store, and just between you and I, the store was only pulling in like $12,000 a month. All right. He had asked me to buy it right around when Stan Lee died. So it was 2.5, 3 years ago. Right. So he asked me if I wanted to buy it back for $60,000, which was 4 times what I sold it to him. I sold it to him for next to nothing just to get rid of it because I was high, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, no, hell no. No way. So it was just a little extra income for him, and he was able to get a volume discount. Well, volume discounts are now gone, as he states in the article. They're losing, like, on DC Comics, you're losing 2%. On Marvel, you're losing 2%. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that much, but you're having to put more work into it as well, which is fucked up. But that's the way it is now. They had their opportunity when the coup hit to get together, use their power as store owners to get the publishers and the distributors to bend the knee to them. They had this one opportunity, not sure if it would have worked, but they didn't do it. They all went to their own corners. That's publishers, distributors, shop owners, creatives, and we're in the situation we're in now. They never spoke up when the creators started attacking fans. They never spoke up when they obviously started hiring for identity, for what kind of packaging you got, who you sleep with, what your politics are. They never spoke up when they started alienating half their clientele with all the Orange Man Bad bullshit. And now they're paying the consequences. And they still, like Brian still doesn't bring it up in this article. He does bring up a very good point with the periodicals, though. It is no longer profitable, and it is not a sustainable model, the variant scheme, basically. And I find it very hard to believe that they aim things at speculators. I know it's still going on, but it's not like it was in 2013. Like, it was good to be a speculator if you could flip your stuff quick. I can't see that now. Everybody does variants, and the market is saturated. And it's lying and manipulation. So when the industry has to resort to lying and manipulation, I can say that word, to convince the general public, and more importantly, their corporate overlords, that they're doing well, then you're not doing well, obviously. So I believe him when he says he didn't want to put the energy into training. Like, listen, finding 2 trustworthy, knowledgeable comic shop employees is not an easy thing to do. It's pretty much like finding a unicorn. Add on top of that, trying to find a trustworthy, knowledgeable, verbose, social comic shop employee, and that's 1,000 times harder. We all sell the same shit. It's how we sell it. It's the shop owner's personality. And Brian doesn't have the best personality in the world, as you have seen. He's very patronizing of his customers. He's very patronizing of his patrons, which it never fucking works. So, but he's managed to fit in San Francisco, and he's always had way too much influence on the industry as a whole. And he's a pretty selfish dude. I'm sure you've seen that in the live streams. He actually thought because he couldn't buy books that the whole country shouldn't have been able to buy books when Diamond decided to distribute and DC decided to work. And right now, I think he should probably be grateful that the giant corporations want to fucking make comic books to begin with, because I don't think they're going to for very much longer. Not that they're great. They're not. Marvel sucked. And when Disney took over, they sucked even more to work with. And we all know the product sucks, and having to conflate manga sales with children's books, yeah, it's a big fucking lie. So what was that? There's a point in the article where he kind of, what I thought was funny, he tries to minimize me. He talks about buying the shop from another owner, and he was the 3rd owner. Technically, that's true, but I was the one who owned it the longest and made the most money with the shop. So he never did more than $10,000 or $12,000 a month, which means it probably should have been shut down, but he could have made more if he put into it. He says it himself. I didn't want to put that much energy into it, and it showed. And it showed to the customers. That's why half of my customers left within the first year when he took over, because they just didn't like the 2 new employees. So there's that. I can't think of much else that I was going to say. Hopefully that helps. Obviously, the American comic book industry is in the toilet right now, and it's in the toilet for, the obvious reasons: distribution, the Diamond monopoly, which, Diamond didn't have any competition. Competition leads to innovation, and we didn't. He even mentions that. He said, it's a stagnant model now. It has been for decades, and none of the shop owners called it out because they were comfortable. And it's just not how you do business. And it really shouldn't have lasted this long. They had to manipulate a lot of things. Now, I like it as a niche business, but it could have grown, and now it's too fragmented. And the biggest problem out there that I see is still customer service. And then the quality of the product. I was just in a member stream, and we were going over an Iron Man book from last year. I think Memology just tweeted it out today, where Hellcat is chastising him for his white privilege. I mean, nobody wants to read that shit. You guys know that. So, yeah, hopefully this video helps. I'm sorry it took so long. I've been up to my eyeballs in work, and I'm actually going to a comic shop right now. And I don't know if you guys have time for this, but my good friend Jamie Newbold, his shop got broken into. I tweeted out a list of the books that were stolen. If you could shout that out or retweet it, I'd appreciate it. And I appreciate all you guys do. I appreciate you reaching out to me. And thank you for all the support you guys have shown me. I can never express my gratitude for that. And yeah, thank God for you guys and you and John. You're the only voices of sanity out there in the comic book world. So keep doing what you're doing. Take care. Hopefully this helps.